So let's go ahead and go on to, I think, Kiah in Alabama. Kiah, hello, you're live on the line. How are you? What would you like to talk
Hey,
to
I'm
us
doing
about?
great. How are y'all doing today?
Doing
Doing
well.
okay.
So, I'll kind of give y'all just like a short preface. My name's Kiah. That is short for my dead name, which is Hezekiah. So you can kind of guess from
Mm-hmm.
that I am trans femme, and I kind of
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in the indie. I told one of the people that were taking names that I'm she they.
Oh,
And right
okay.
when I got
We'll
in, y'all
correct that.
had the Israel. Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
you're
no,
good.
we're good. Go ahead. Please continue.
So right when I got in, y'all had the caller from Israel, and they were calling, and like it really touched on what I was going to call in about because like I'm currently in the closet. There are 3 people that know that I am trans femme, and of those people, one of them said to me, "Hey, you can be more active politically if you come out." And then I've been listening to conversations, as you can imagine, in Alabama the conversation doesn't typically go towards being promoting trans people to come out. And so, like, I grew up in Alabama as a Jew. While I was growing up as a Jew, it was really good because people would see me and they would ask questions like, hey, what's this Hanukkah thing? Or, hey, I thought y'all were weird and didn't associate with people because we're unclean. Like, you got the opportunity to answer questions because you were there and you were
Yeah.
visible. And then, like, there's this impetus, I think, behind some trans people to come out, whether it's safe or not, because we can educate and we can change people's minds and we can be activists. And I heard one of your earlier callers, it was like, we don't want to be screaming and yelling, but we need to be visible. But then at the same time, people like me were like, okay, yeah, I live in a free, quote unquote, country, which is
Mhm.
questionably quoted, but I definitely don't live in a state that's supportive. So I was just calling in kind of to get y'all's opinions, any guidance y'all might have for is it like is it a crime against the community? I guess that's strong words, but is it a crime against the community for people to stay in the closet that might be able to help with activism or might be able to help with like fighting the good fight? Like all of us that kind of sit on the sidelines and we're like, nope, not gonna fight that fight right now.
Yeah. It's hard right now. No one should ever be shaming or socially pressuring a trans person to come out if they're not comfortable coming out. It is solely your choice. And you should never feel about coming out for anything outside of yourself. Like there is no reason to say, okay, I'm coming out because X, Y, and Z, if those X, Y, and Z is not because I'm gonna feel better. And that is what I will say. I have a friend that I was actually speaking to yesterday. They have detransitioned. They were, they were out. They're definitely still a trans person. Don't get me wrong. They're trans, but they recloseted themselves because when they came out, they lost their family, they lost their job, they got fired, and they lost a close circle of friends, and they didn't have a strong trans community around them to hold them close to say you got this. And they went through incredible amounts of trauma, and they almost hurt themselves, and so they chose what they needed to do in their moment to detransition so they could be back in their circles, and they are trying to find a economically stable position for them to go back and transition in a way that they feel safe in doing. And they're dealing with a lot of trauma right now, still, especially about being afraid of ever coming out again because they just got employed and now they're afraid if they come out again, they're going to lose their job. And there's so much trauma inside of that. And they were telling me that, very typical detransition story are the people who get bullied back into the closet. So there is, and they were Californian. Right. Like they like, and that was a thing that was really hard to hear as well. So I say all of that not as a, oh my gosh, don't do it. I'm saying all of that because you have to remember that your survival is the most important thing. And if you feel that you would be unsafe and you would go through that trauma without a support network to support you, then you have to think about, am I going to do this? I will say, as an openly trans person, that it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. In fact, more likely than not, like if there was 100 people that transitioned, 97 of those people would say, yes, this is great, while three of those people will say, "Oh my gosh, this was terrible. My life is worse," because that's how math and statistics work. And so you have to think about yourself, and you have to think about your own person, your own personal safety, and making sure that you have the networks and network to keep you safe. Um, but I just said a lot. I would love your response, and then Lux can go.
Well, yeah, so that's actually like this is a running like conversation that a couple of people and I are having on online forums. And I know online is, as I say it on a YouTube stream, online can be somewhat toxic in certain areas. And so it's like I'm careful about the conversations I have online. But one of the people that was conversing with me about this online said if everybody at Stonewall had been afraid for their safety more than willing to fight, we wouldn't have made that progress. So it's like, how much are we responsible for protecting the next generation, protecting the future by standing up right now and saying, I'm willing to lose my job? And like for somebody like me, I'm employed. Well, I'm employed by someone who previously chose to employ a lot of people at my synagogue. And so, like, he likes to support people inside the community. If he finds out my views, he will actively like disassociate from me, which means I will lose my job. And there's no question in that. It's not a potential. So it's like, how much are we willing to sacrifice, and what responsibility do we have to be willing to say, hey, I can see they're putting people in camps. Like, I'm not going to go without at least speaking up.
Yeah. I mean, it's a highly personal decision. So I think that because it's such a highly personal decision, it's tricky to think of it in those terms of does my life to some extent not even belong to me? Like, does my life to some extent belong to the community? And like, kind of, yeah, from like a certain perspective, like we all are members of communities, whether that's the queer community or whether it's just like where we live locally. And like, I do hold to that belief that we are responsible to one another. I don't like this whole like, whatever, I don't owe you anything kind of culture. But like our physical safety is on the line. And so that is a decision that you have to make. And it's a calculation that you have to do. And maybe what you want to do is save up money and move north. Like that might be in the cards for you. Like while you have the economic stability of the privileged position that you're in where you have a job and people perceive you as male, then yeah, like totally maybe exploit that while you can and save up and get the hell out of Dodge. If it's not possible for you to come out in the place where you live without it being a dramatic social ill, which it seems like it would be a pretty big social and material ill in your life. I can't advocate that someone in that position should come out right now. I think it's irresponsible for that person's safety. And what is a community? It's comprised of a bunch of people who need to fucking care about each other. And so, yeah, I am never going to say you have to come out. Your life doesn't belong to you. Your safety is not relevant because you should live for the sake of the community in that way. Like that, I think, is an unreasonable expectation to hold ourselves to when we are very much in a situation where camps could happen, or even without the officially sanctioned violence against us, there is interpersonal violence against us. Like it happens in sanctuary states. Minnesota is like a safe state for trans people. And I've known of at least 2 different murders of a trans person in the past year. And so you can't guarantee safety even in those blue places, but it's about you and whether your life is going to be better and whether you want to pursue that in a new place, if you're willing to pursue it regardless of the risks where you currently live, like it's just up to you to decide what is worth like the benefit versus the risk outcome, you know?
Yeah, and I also want to reframe what that person says. It's also an apt analogy to use. I'm just going to call out that person saying, "What if the people at Stonewall didn't stand up?" That's BS because the people at Stonewall were already standing up when they were getting, you know. It was a situation where there was already a queer community. There was already a group of people who were going to queer bars. They were already open. They were already out, and they decided to rally together and do it on the streets in front of Stonewall and created the riot. It wasn't like people knocking on doors saying, "Hey, you gay person, you've been closeted, come out here and march." Like that's not how it worked. And like there is like the famous Harvey Milk thing that happened where Harvey Milk came out. He was the first one that openly come out as a politician and say, "Hey, I'm a gay person." And then he encouraged other closeted gay people to come out all at once so they would have solidarity. There's never been, at least in my experience at our queer culture, where we have tried to pressure other humans to come out at a point when they're not comfortable coming out. And it's your story to tell. It is you who decides this. I knew so many trans women before I came out. And, almost every single one of them were like, "Oh, yeah, we were just waiting for you to come out. We knew it was going to happen eventually." And not one of them told me, "Girl, you're an egg, come out." Like, it's like, yeah, we all knew you when you were at brunch with us, we kind of got it. Right. And I was like, damn, all right. But they didn't, but they waited for me to come to that conclusion. Nobody's going to force you to do that, and anybody that's trying to do that is speaking from a privileged position and have zero idea what you are going through right now. And I want to always say, we don't need martyrs. We don't need people that are going to throw themselves on the fire for the sake of throwing themselves on the fire. We need us to survive. Survival as a community is more important now than it's ever been. We do not need to be sacrificing our own for the sake of sacrifice. That has never been a good way of going about our movement. And
Nope.
because that is what we fight for. We fight for us to live, for us to thrive, for us to create a world where others can then come out as well. That's why, me and Lux and people on the host on the show that are trans and all of us, we all are privileged to be able to be supported as trans people. And it's our duty to try to make it easier for people like yourself to come out when it's time for you to come out. I fight for better laws in the country so that way you are protected when you make that decision. I do not want you to come out and then make your story the reason why we need protection. Like, I don't want martyrs. That's not what we're fighting for. I want survivors. That's what I'm fighting for. I want as many of us to live, and whatever that takes, that's what it takes. So that's my point of view about it.
And I hear what y'all are saying, and I 100% agree with you. And maybe it's like listening to the people around me. Very possible I just need to find better people to be around, but that's kind of hard when you can't be openly in the community. But
That's right.
one of the conversations that I've had is somebody said, they were advocating for the 50-51 marches, and they said, Martin Luther King started a march and it changed the world. And he had to be that guy, the pastor from a Black community that stood up and said, I know that I'm in a point of privilege, and so I'm going to use that privilege to organize this. And so, how much individual responsibility should we feel for being, especially when we're in a position where we do have privilege? How much responsibility should we feel personally, or I should figure out how to use my privilege to come out in a responsible way that changes hearts and minds, I guess is a good way to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to make that calculation for yourself. And that's what the most important thing is. You need to and again, I feel the heart. I feel your heart, Kiah. I feel it. It's like I can hear your soul screaming out to be like, I want to help the people around me really bad. And if I have to come out to help another person come out around me, then that's the thing I want to do. And if that's what you want to do, then do it. Right. If that's what screams at you and you're just like, I'm ready to do this, I'm ready to take whatever licks I can do to do it, then that's your choice to make. But if it is a situation where you have the opportunity to stand back and say, all right, I'm going to calculate this out to make sure that I'm safe, so therefore other people can see that it's safe, that's another way you can do it. Because at least for my story, when I came out, I had dozens of people call me and say, oh my God, thank you, Josie. Now I feel more comfortable with myself and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't do it for that. I did it for the selfish reason that I'm Josie. That's really what it was. It was because I couldn't take it anymore and I couldn't be the person that I was pretending to be. And that's my story, right? Yes, do I have the ability to be on a platform and be inspirational to others and everything like that? Yes. But that is just a byproduct of me living my truth. That's how that works for me. Like, I came out because I needed to come out because it saved my life. And that's my story. It just happened to be that I use that power to help others.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers, and thank you for your well-reasoned responses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck out there. It's tough no matter what you choose, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. It's about what's going to make your life feel better, because sometimes it's just, you just got to take the rock out of your shoe. And for me, taking the rock out of my shoe was being myself. I had to do it. It was just there was no other option. It was just life or death for me. That's what made me choose. And sometimes we get to that moment, and don't feel ashamed about that. Okay? And by the way, your voice is incredible. I just want to say that like you have a very beautiful voice, and never in a million years I would have been like, this girl's been closeted. Like, I would have never in a million years guessed that. So yeah, you have a fantastic voice. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Well, good luck,
Great.
Kiah.
Well,
Call us back if you want to share any more of your journey as you go forward.
yeah, I'll be happy to have that. All right. Bye.
Hey, do you think this clip just fell out of a coconut tree? No. It did. Okay, now technically I did build the channel into a coconut tree and it did fall out. And also that our internet router is up there. Actually, in a lot of ways, this production fell out of a coconut tree. But we could only afford that because people like you supported us for $5 a month over where is that, Eric?
Patreon.com/call the line, and
that's right.
Jimmy will,
you got it.
Yeah, be grateful. Yeah.
We have an exclusive patron podcast over there. Check it out. Thumbs up with it, Eric. We talked about this in the meeting. We have to both.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay, there we go.